And America as a white future minority. Coming up.
Far and away the most massive genocide in the history of the world. The lowest life expectancy in the West. And the year the U.S. will turn native.
Virtually none of Thanksgiving has an ounce of accuracy, notes the bestseller Lies My Teacher Told Me. The idea of Europe bringing civilization to the Americas simply flips truth on its head. This is what European explorers actually...
You're watching RT, which is a, for those that don't know, a pretty major, damn near close to mainstream news source. I like it because it's a little off mainstream. You know what I'm saying? They kind of get in with the net, nooks and crannies a little bit more. But, yeah. Shout out to Hood, man. Hood to Hood. I believe it's Hood to Hood 1000, something like that. But Kings to you, bro. Dropped this, and after 30 seconds, I said, well, where's my camera? Let's go. But, yeah, man. This is RT, so this ain't finding nothing on YouTube. You're not watching YouTube right now. Well, you are watching YouTube, but you're not watching a YouTube within a YouTube. You get what I'm saying. You're not watching a YouTube video while you're watching a YouTube video. Not right now. Not this time. So you're watching basically mainstream television reporting finally on some of the real. Let's go.
Found in North America.
Far and away the most beautiful city on earth. 5 times the size of London or Rome. Great towers and buildings rising from the water. 60,000 gleaming houses.
On the top, let's go.
America as a white future minority. Coming up.
Far and away the most massive genocide in the history of the world. The lowest life expectancy in the West. And the year the U.S. will turn native.
Virtually none of Thanksgiving has an ounce of accuracy, notes the bestseller Lies My Teacher Told Me. The idea of Europe bringing civilization to the Americas simply flips truth on its head. This is what European explorers actually found in North America.
Far and away the most beautiful city on earth. 5 times the size of London or Rome. Great towers and buildings rising from the water. 60,000 gleaming houses, and how spacious and how well built they were. Of beautiful stonework and cedarwood, and the wood of other sweet-scented trees. The many streets and boulevards of the city were so neat and well swept, despite the multitude of inhabitants, crisscrossed with a complex network of canals, like an enormous Venice, but also remarkable floating gardens that reminded of nowhere else on Earth.
While Europe was drinking water from its polluted city rivers, huge aqueducts transported America's water from fresh springs.
But what impressed most were the special merchant areas where timber and tiles and other building materials were bought and sold, as well as greengrocer streets where one could buy every sort of vegetable, fruits, honeys, nut paste and chocolates. Astonished by the personal cleanliness and hygiene of the colorfully dressed populace, and by their extravagant use of soaps, deodorants, and breath sweeteners.
Most Europeans never bathed and kept clothes on at all times. The Pilgrim's Notes biographer Zini Finer had a terrible smell. Indians tried...
All right, time out. We are not making this shit up. This shit is reality. You just learned about the chronologies, how they've been dropped all over the place. Names switched, switching times and laws. Now you hear, oh, we brought civilization to you. What did the Pope say? Dumb Diversas. Subjugate them to perpetual servitude, take everything. And then what did they write in the Biblioteca de Colombina in Sevilla, Spain? What did the Pope Leo write? Oh, we brought them into humanity. We brought these savages up. That was the constant lie. Even to the European today, feels they can walk around on this soil and think that they've done something good. That they are a blessing for being here. That they are the image of this hijacked Jesus that slaughtered our family. It should make everybody's stomach turn to hear what they really found in reality. how can you bring any new drop to what was already established as the drop in Drop Nation? They found paradise when they found you. And they walk around as if they're bringing you paradise today. And you have nothing. And we have to go home to paradise. You have to exit the cities to go home to paradise. The man-made environments are not for you. They are killing you softly. With Jeets on.
Quote, without success to teach them to bathe. Settlers also had bad breath from rotting teeth. Death and starvation was so common that corpses were just dumped in open pits known as poreholes.
Reality.
They turned to alcohol and committed suicide. In fact, the story of the first settlers has been deliberately changed, notes author James Lowen, because the truth's so shameful. They actually settled hundreds of miles further south and stayed in America because the mission was a failure. Their real aim, reports historian Robert Beverly, was to find some gold and take it back to Europe.
They spent their days digging random holes in the ground, aimlessly looking for gold instead of planting crops. Soon they were starving and digging up putrid Indian corpses to eat. They took some Indian prisoners and forced...
Yeah, you just heard that right. They dug up Indian bodies to eat because they were starving. Reality. Activate. And know what you're up against. They dug up the corpses of your ancestors to eat them because they were hungry. Because they didn't plant no food. Remember, Cortez burnt them ships. He said, man, we ain't going nowhere until we find some gold. So they came like ravishing beasts, eating everything, including you, and digging up your ancestors to eat. So if they would eat a dead corpse, what would they do if they caught a fresh, lively one? Oh, he's a lively one. They were eating dead corpses. I mean, think about it. What if you said, I don't eat meat? All right, so I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. And then you started starving. So you said, shit, well, okay. Now, in that moment that you were going to decide to finally eat meat, and we're talking about, let's say we're talking about a deer. All right, a nice deer. You said, all right, would you choose a rotting dead corpse of a deer, or would you choose to slaughter the deer and cook it nice and fresh? Which deer would you prefer, the fresh deer or the rotting corpse deer? So if they were eating the corpse of the copper color ancestor, what did they do to you? Black man, Negro. Oh, somebody had their mute thing on. They didn't hear about the eating. Well, let's just go back. Here we go.
Use of soaps, deodorants, and breath
Soaps and
sweeteners.
deodorants.
Most Europeans never bathed and kept clothes on at all times. The Pilgrim's Notes biographer Zini Finer had a terrible smell. Indians tried, quote, without success to teach them to bathe. Settlers also had bad breath from rotting teeth. Death and starvation was so common that corpses were just dumped in open pits known as poreholes. Many turned to alcohol and committed suicide. In fact, the story of the first settlers has been deliberately changed, notes author James Lowen, because the truth's so shameful. They actually settled hundreds of miles further south and stayed in America because the mission was a failure. Their real aim, reports historian Robert Beverly, was to find some gold and take it back to Europe.
They spent their days digging random holes in the ground, aimlessly looking for gold instead of planting crops. Soon they were starving and digging up putrid Indian corpses to eat.
moving on.
They took some Indian prisoners and forced them to teach the colonists how to farm.
And the meal with the natives wasn't quite the Thanksgiving shown on TV and in school books.
The colonists offered the Indians a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the chief, his family, advisors, and 200 followers dropped dead of poison.
In mainstream history books,
how did they take out our chiefs? Poison. Lex Will's been dropping on this, you know what I'm saying? Biological, chemical warfare, poisons, witchcraft, sorcery. Hey, this is just one account, right? But it's a little different than the one taught in school. And these days, I value those more. Because if they have allowed it to become their mainstream classroom, you know, what do they call that? You know, how they have the classroom, you know, agendas and assignments that are voted on by a small group, a small minority. And that's the curriculum. Somebody sent that to me. Thank you. Curriculum. You know, somebody look up curriculum. I'm sure it's going to be something crazy in that. I already know it's a hijack. So in this curriculum, they teach certain things. So we're touching on the opposite of those things, with the simple logic that these people turned everything upside down. What do they tell you? What's ingrained? You can't even believe it. You're watching it and you don't even believe it now, because that's how deep they got into your psyche. It is inception. You got to go in and take it out. Remove your hijacks before you go into the wilderness, so the wilderness can fight for you and with you. But it cannot, by nature, fight next to a hijack. That's against order. Order over chaos. They've inceptioned you. You can't believe this shit happened. You can't believe what they saw. They're telling you, but you can't believe it. You think it's crazy that they were eating you, huh? This is the unpopular opinion. And we're being scientific about it.
Perhaps the most common description of American territory then is virgin land. In fact, notes historian Peter Jennings, it was widowed. Horrific enough, the Nazi ethnic cleansings in Europe during World War II. Leading American studies professor David Stannard notes it's dwarfed by, quote, far and away the most massive act of genocide in the history of the world. The death of 100 million indigenous people in the, quote, America.
Oh, get over it. Move on. Don't race bait. Stop bringing up old shit. You're going to start a war. No, we've been invaded. Once you've been invaded, you can't be guilty of starting a war. Huh? How can the reaction ever really be wrong when you've done what you've done? Any reaction is fair. Yet wisdom is leading us to regroup to our Creator. Not fight in the streets, but go regroup amongst ourselves with our Creator. Go home. You don't got to go the popular route that they're leading you. Get that hijack out. Oh, get over it. That's in the past. They don't want you to see it as an invasion, even though you can look up the first American wars and all you see is American Cherokee, American Cherokee, American Cherokee. So clearly you went to war against our people first. Then set up your second world on top of our first world. Get over it. Will the land ever get over it? Will the earth ever get over it? Will the air, the wind, will the sea ever get over it? Will Heya ever get over it?
And Holocaust, some from disease, but also vast numbers from a deliberate policy aimed at wiping out the race that mainstream history books continue to pretend never happened.
Huh.
He knows when Heinrich Himmler called the final solution, quote, delousing, Himmler was only echoing the Pilgrim Army's rallying cry, nits make lice, nits being Indian babies. This was a map of Indian nations across the US. 80% of the first government's entire budget went on attacking existing Indian settlements to take their developed farmland. Settlers would most probably
Gotta see
not
that
have
map
survived
again.
Rice
You know
Jennings
me.
on their own. 95% rallying cry, nits make lice.
Gotta see
nits
that map
being
again.
Indian babies. This was a map of Indian nations across the US. 80% of the first government's entire...
Oh, I was not quick enough on the draw.
When Heinrich Himmler called the final solution, quote, delousing, Himmler was only echoing the Pilgrim Army's rallying cry, nits make lice, nits being Indian babies.
Come on.
This was a map of...
Gotcha. I just want y'all to, be able to get that. I like maps. You like maps. We like maps. Somebody's going to find something, so do you. You see the Cherokee over here, the Shawnee, Choctaw, you already knew that. Pawnee, Cheyenne. So there's Navel, I don't know much about it, I just want to look at it. All right, let's go.
Indian nations across the US, 80% of the first government's entire budget went on attacking existing Indian settlements to take their development.
Okay, 80% of the entire budget of the corporation that's owned by the London Company Corporation, that expects you to be a citizen of the corporation, owned by a corporation, although you cannot be a citizen of a corporation. However, 80% of their budget goes towards destroying you. That 100, which is even more than that, hundreds of millions of us slaughtered here. So 80% of their budget goes towards destroying hundreds of millions of who? Adamites. Seeds of Adam. Oh, everybody's a seed of Adam. Adamites. Seeds of the original Adam. Adamites. Seeds of that frequency that has never gone nowhere, that can never go nowhere. You have never been separate. It is an illusion of seclusion. 80% of their budget goes towards you.
Settlers would most probably not have survived, writes Jennings, on their own. 95% of America's entire population was then wiped out.
Bang.
American Holocaust notes there is documented evidence of colonist leaders going town after town, deliberately killing all men, women, and children. Yet school texts and history books remain silent. Orders came from the very top. Under the direct order of George Washington, at least 28 of 30 Seneca towns and all the towns of the Mohawk, Onondaga, and Cayuga were simply obliterated. George Washington wrote, the Indian country, quote, must be destroyed. Thomas Jefferson called to, quote, pursue Indians to extermination. Nobel Peace Prize winner Theodore Roosevelt called beneficial the eradication of the native race. Senate knows genocide was official public policy. California governor...
Got furniture moving around here, man. Getting me, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah, man. So every time you hear Indian, you know what I'm saying? Replace that with something that you know they're talking about you. If you're used to hearing black, fuck it. Every time you hear Indian, say black. That's what you're programmed for, and that might get to you more than a Negro, something else that you're not really, you connect with black. Nothing I can do right now can make you not connect with black. Okay? Whatever. You're copper colored, but connect with black. Black power, black power. You gotta get off that checkerboard. You gotta, that chessboard, whatever, that Masonic thing. You got to get off that duality. You got to get off of that. You got to get off of their version of time and space. You got to connect back to the throne above the firmament. But fuck it. Every time you hear Indian, just think black. We got to get to these black people. We got to do this to black people. That's why they say Black Lives Matter, because, you know, they've inceptioned us with this shit. All right, so you connect to black, every time you hear Indian, think black.
Peter Burnett in his 1851 message to the legislature.
Extermination must continue to be waged until the Indian becomes extinct.
Black.
Another governor issued the public proclamation to, quote, pursue, kill, and destroy all Indians.
Black.
A witness notes the ensuing bloodbaths practically wiped out the native race.
Black.
The whites shoot them down like wolves, men, women, and children,
Black.
wherever they could find them. This war of extermination against the Aborigines is
Black.
ending to the final extinction of the race.
What reportedly saved the race from extinction was their use as slave labor.
Black.
The extermination policy has proved so injurious to the interests of the whites. Indian labor is indispensable.
Black.
Prize slaves were Indian girls as young
Black.
as 3, said the Marysville Appeal, for fulfilling double roles of labor and of lust.
Black.
Florian Jr.'s hereditary chief of the Hankton One First Nation, Phil, really great
Hijack.
to see you. What facts are being airbrushed out of history?
Practices were that that sometimes you don't want to speak about, and they not only wiped out most of the people, but the way they did it, the greatest loss of people at any time in history.
Cultural genocide is still being waged on surviving Indians, reports Truthout. From the start of the 20th century, children were forced into so-called Indian boarding schools, designed to, quote, kill the Indian in them, according to the system's
Black.
founding father, Richard Pratt. Indians are obliged to change their name to a Western one like Tom, made to dress and style their hair like whites. Indigenous Americans are also forced to adopt Christianity and all other
Black.
parts of Western
Black.
culture.
Black.
The North
Black.
Farm witnessed the abuse firsthand. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Can you tell us what happened?
Federal policy here was to
Hijack.
take the Indian out of the person. They beat the language out of like my father. He grew up his whole life. His hands were kind of bent. As a result, he used to talk our native language, but he never wanted me to.
And let me be clear. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that are going to be waking up feeling like they're just caught in between the cracks. And I don't ever want to represent something that isn't true. What's true is that our energy, what we're talking about, when you choose up, when you choose to be on a certain vibration, that's all there is. Regardless of your place in this grand design, you are what you are by design. So at this moment in time, what are you going to do? You might have access that other people don't have that are not quote unquote black. So don't say, oh, well, I'm just a hijack. No, you don't have to be a hijack. We're just saying the root of all this crap is a hijack. We're pointing out the proxy that's been placed as a hijack. But some of these people still had, let's say, warrior mentalities or roots that were against what's going on. Not all these people were cool with this shit. Let's be true with that. Now, I'm not saying they rose up as a nation fighting with us, but not every single person, case by case, was cool with this shit. That's not fair, right? There are those of them that I'm sure fought with us. It might be speckles and sprinkles, but I'm sure some folks was choosing up. And there are descendants of those people today where it's not fair to just be like, hijack nigga, because we don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? This person's knuckles, whatever the case was, maybe he was, trying to choose up. We don't know his case, so we can't judge him. There's one judge. So let me be clear on that. Don't make me Obama you. Let me be clear. All right, that was all right. That was all right. So dig on it. So I just want to let all the family understand that when I say family, we're talking energy. Let's none of us be short-sighted or else we fall into the same traps as our ancestors. We should only see good things. That is our salvation, our energy. Some of us, I get it. I be watching these videos, Drop Nation. Some people be pissed, and I get it. But let not our energy be brought to their level. Even if we know the truth. We don't have to feel like we're bloodthirsty like them, like we're animalistic, like we're beasts. It's time for us to choose up. Don't get sucked down in a war that got nothing to do. Let that illusion go. It's time for us to go home. It's celebration. It's Jubilee season, man. Get your energy up. Don't bring all that hijack stuff like as if that's all there is. And you don't see the rest of the picture. You don't see the spectrum of light. Remember, your eyes only see what? Less than 1% of the real spectrum of light. So what 99% of light are you not seeing? What part of the wilderness do you not understand? Maybe you only understand 1% of the spectrum of light that is the wilderness. And you could only see it as a tribal Indian being tribal again. Anarchy! Who's the leader of this tribe? Anarchy! What about the other 99% of the spectrum of light you're not tapping into? Because you're stuck in your own illusion of seclusion. Either we believe or we're play. Either it's a game or it's not. Either it's energy or it's nothing. So let's go. Don't subscribe to Hijack City.
To learn. I consider myself a recovering Catholic because of, the sexual abuse that I experienced
Recovering Catholic.
from the
Hijack.
Catholic Church.
Daniel Sheehan says the genocide is continuing. He's helped start the Lakota Child Rescue Project to stop the forcible removal of Indian children. Daniel, thanks a lot for coming on. Could you tell us what is happening to the children?
And what we discovered is that not only were the children being taken on an epidemic level, that it was happening on every single one of the reservations and in virtually every one of the major cities. The International Convention Against Genocide actually has a provision which expressly identifies what's going on as...
And because these people are stuck in the middle, right, they've been getting some things that we have not been getting, right? We've been getting some punishments and judgments that other people have not been getting. Remember, we as a nation have been judged first. Now it's time for the rest of the nation's judgment. The Most High judged his children first in front of everybody. Everybody saw the ass whooping. And they're like, damn, is that what he does to his own children? Well, I'm fucked. And yeah, pretty much. But some will choose up, man. Some will choose up. Some will choose up. But yeah, we've been judged first. Everyone's seen it. It's been documented. You're looking at it right now. The judgment of Israel. Now it's redemption season. It's the redemption. It's the rejoicing. So that's why I say choose up. Vibrate up, because you're supposed to be in the vibration that you're walking into. Yes, it will be Jacob's trouble. Yes, all these things are going down. But look, some are destined not to see. And some are destined to see and to vibrate. Once you see, then you see that your energy. When you see your energy, you vibrate. It's very simple. Very simple.
Genocide. That the systematic undertaking on the part of the racially dominant culture in a given nation state, taking away indigenous children from their native tribes and putting them in the white culture has been identified as genocide.
Even the Supreme Court still up.
Whoa, so putting them into white culture is genocide. What did they do to blacks? So now now just like getting to the root of it all, man. Was breaking down. Our leaders back then was going right to the step of the drum. Because now they are going to, end segregation and put blacks with whites, which is exactly what they wanted, so that they could assimilate us into their culture. You see, checkmate. And that is genocide. So our leaders there were either consciously or unconsciously leading us to genocide.
His second-class status to this day, writes noted legal scholar Robert Williams, who joins us now. It's really great to speak to you. Can you give us some examples?
1 out of 3 Indian women will be raped during their lifetime. In 86% of those cases, the victims report that it's a non-Indian that perpetuated the sexual assault. or the rape. This has been traced directly to the inability of tribes to prosecute these crimes. One of the points I make in my book, Savage Anxieties, is that if you look at the history of the more civilized nations' treatments, so-called more civilized nations' treatments of indigenous peoples, it really makes you wonder who are the savages and who are the more civilized. One very famous study done found that every single treaty that the United States had negotiated with tribes had in fact been breached at one time or another or had been violated. Supreme Court said they had no property rights and therefore no rights to just compensation. And there was some horrible language in the opinion about how the court recognized that everyone knows that the savage tribes of America were conquered and the treaties were really meaningless anyway. So it's this perpetuation of these stereotypes in this case.
Just like the brother Lex Will just broke down. They rule with the sword. They rule with the gun. They're ruling by force. They're ruling by the color of the law. The color of the law. If you're black and you're white, you're not of the color. If you're black, you're definitely not of the color. White, you know, they got that in there, right? Black, you're not represented in the color of the law. They judge by the second world, by the sea law, admiralty, maritime, sea law. So it don't matter the treaties, y'all. If they've invaded you, it's only one. It's going to be one king. It's going to be one victor. The treaty doesn't matter to the victor. He does what he wants to do, especially these people. You can't make a deal with the devil. And they came with that. All right. See my battery over here, so I'm going I want to get a little bit more of this, and I'm going to go to something else.
Which is still valid law in the United States. It's still a valid precedent.
And so they drink it, but it's actually hairspray.
Native Indians now have the highest rate of suicide and pandemics of cancer.
So I'm actually going to go to this other drop right quick and just let it ride out with my battery. If it cuts out, it cuts out. Let's go. This is a continuation of the drop we were featuring last time. It just got interesting. Everybody pay attention. It's about to go down.
Eve went down in of spirit over the mountains of paradise, and they found a cave in the top of the mountain, and they entered and hid themselves therein. When Adam and Eve left paradise, they no longer had fruit and wine and bread and flesh to live upon, and they subsisted on cooked grain and vegetables and the herbs of the earth, of which they ate sparingly. Moreover, the four-footed beasts and fowl and reptiles rebelled against them, and some of them became enemies and adversaries unto them. Book of the Bee, chapter 17. Now Adam and Eve were virgins, and Adam wished to know Eve, his wife. And Adam took from the skirts of the mountain of paradise gold and myrrh and frankincense, and he placed them in the cave. And he blessed the cave and consecrated it, that it might be the house of prayer for himself and his sons. And he called the cave Me'arath Gaz, i.e. the cave of treasures. So Adam and Eve went down from that holy mountain of Eden to the slopes which were below it.
Now this is going down in the center, right? So when you think about the North Pole, well, the model is changing, but you know what I'm saying, the center. So they're in the center of it all. You know, you could think of the center as the navel, as the center, as what Peru is called, the navel, the center, the navel. So, you know, they got my bid that we're talking about South America, we're talking Peru, but wherever this center, this mountain is, where Eden is, in the center of Eden, is the location of what we're talking about. And now that you got your orientation a little better from the last drop, you understand that you're not spinning on the ball, that everything's revolving around you. The sun, the moon, the luminaries are revolving around you. This is the center of the universe. You, Israel, Yasharah, you are the center of the universe. So you're hearing about your ancestors, your Negro ancestors, right? You'll see the center of the universe and how they were presiding in the center of this mountain. And that's where we're picking up the story. Now we're about to get into Cain and Abel. Let's go.
And there Adam knew Eve, his wife. A marginal note in the manuscript says that Adam knew Eve 30 years after they went forth from paradise, and Eve conceived and brought forth Cain and Lebudah, his sister, with him. And Eve conceived again, and she brought forth Habil, Abel, and Kelimoth, his sister, with him. The Book of the Bee makes Kelimoth the twin sister of Cain, and Lebudah the twin sister of Abel. And when the children grew up, Adam said unto Eve, Let Cain take to wife Kelimoth, who is brought forth with Abel, and let Abel take to wife Lebudah, who is brought forth with Cain. And Cain said unto Eve his mother, I will take to wife my twin sister Lebudah, and let Abel take to wife his twin sister Kelimoth. Now Lebudah was beautiful. When Adam heard these words, which were exceedingly displeasing unto him, he said, It will be a transgression of the commandment for thee to take to wife thy sister, who is born with thee. Nevertheless.
So basically, Cain wanted his own sister that was born with him, his twin. And he says it's against the commandments to take to wife your sister that's born with you. So now, I don't know where this goes with the incest stuff, what I'm saying? Clearly, I'm just saying that it could clear whatever up when we're talking about, those earlier generations, with cousins and all this kind of stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, according to this Masoretic text, this is how they look at it, which is a different viewpoint. Being a sister born with them as a twin was against the commandment. So Cain wanted his own sister that was his twin. And that became the jealousy and part of the drama against him and Abel.
Last take ye to yourselves fruits of trees and the young of sheep, and get ye up to the top of this holy mountain. Then go ye into the cave of treasures, and offer ye up your offerings, and make your prayers, and then ye shall consort with your wives. And it came to pass that when Adam, the first priest, and Cain and Abel his sons, were going up to the top of the mountain, Satan entered into Cain, and persuaded him to kill Abel his brother, because of Lebudah, and because his offering was rejected and was not accepted before God, whilst the offering of Abel was accepted. Cain's jealousy of his brother Abel was increased. And when they came down to the plain, Cain rose up against his brother Abel, and he killed him with a blow from a stone of flint. Then straightway Cain received the doom of death, instead of curses, and he became a fugitive and a wanderer all the days of his life. And God drove him forth into exile in a certain part of the forest of Nod, or Nod. And Cain took to wife his twin sister, and made the place of his abode there.
Alright, so Cain took the twin sister anyway. He killed Abel and then took his twin sister, which was against... it's crazy. It's crazy. It's against the commandment. So he's blatantly disrespected. You know what I'm saying? Blatantly.
Adam carried Abel to the cave of treasures and buried him therein. And he set by the side of the body a lamp which burned day and night. Abel was 15 and a half years old when Cain, who was 17 and a half years old, murdered him.
15.
Adam and Eve.
Now, this is supposed to be, a picture of Cain? But they just told you Cain was 17, Abel was 15. Let's go.
Eve mourned for Abel, in great grief for 140 days. Book of Adam and Eve. The birth of Seth. And Adam and Eve mourned for Abel 100 years. And then Adam knew his wife again, and she brought forth Seth, the beautiful, a man mighty and perfect like unto Adam. And he became the father of the mighty men who lived before the flood. Notes, Seth was born in the 130th year of Adam's life. But the Book of the Bee says it was the 230th year. Adam and Seth and his sons dwelt on the top of Mount Eden, while Cain and his children lived on the plain below.
Alright, so Adam and his family live on top of the mountain in the center of the earth. Not inside the ball earth, but as the earth as a plane. Alright, on the plane of earth, on the flat plane, in the center of it, in the mountain, on top. That's where your ancestors are chilling right now. And then on the bottom, your other ancestors, Cain in there. But they got to live on the bottom. And Seth and his family was living on the top. Let's go.
The posterity of Seth. And to Seth was born Enosh, Enos, and Enosh begot Canaan, and Canaan begot Mahalalel. And these are the patriarchs who were born in the days of Adam, the death of Adam. And when Adam had lived 930 years, that is to say, until the 135th year of Mahalalel, the day of his death drew nigh and came. And Seth, his son, and Enosh, and Canaan, and Mahalalel gathered themselves together and came to him. And they were blessed by him, and he prayed over them. And he commanded his son Seth, and said unto him, Observe, my son Seth, that which I command thee this day. And do thou on the day of thy death give my command to Enosh, and repeat it to him. And let him repeat it to Canaan, and Canaan shall repeat it to Mahalalel.
Which means you repeat it to you. If everybody got to repeat it down a seed, a generation, this means this is for you. Negro, wake up.
And let this my command be handed on to all your generations. And when I die, embalm me with myrrh, and cassia, and stocti, and deposit my body in the cave of treasures. And whosoever shall be left of your generations in that day, when you are going forth from this country which is round about paradise, shall take place, shall carry my body with him, and shall take it and deposit it in the center of the earth. For in that place shall redemption be effected for me and for all my children. And be thou, O my son Seth.
So that's a lot of drop. I know people will get that on different dimensions, but there was a lot of drop in there.
Governor of the sons of thy people, and thou shalt rule them purely and holily in the fear of God. And keep ye your offspring separate from the offspring of Cain the murderer. And when the report Adam is dying was known generally, all his offspring gathered together and came to him. That is to say, Seth, his son, and Enosh, and Canaan, and Mahalalel, they and their wives, and their sons and their daughters, and Adam blessed them. And the departure of Adam from this world took place in the 930th year, according to the reckoning from the beginning, on the 14th day of the moon, on the 6th day of the month of Nisan, April, at the 9th hour, on the day of the eve of the Sabbath, i.e., the Friday. At the same hour in which the Son of Man delivered up his soul to his Father on the cross, did our father Adam deliver up his soul to him that fashioned him. And he departed from this world. And when Adam was dead, his son Seth embalmed him, according as Adam had commanded him, with myrrh and cassia and stocti. Now Adam's dead body was the first body buried in the earth, and grief for him was exceedingly sore. And Seth and his sons mourned for his death 140 days. And they took Adam's body up to the top of the mountain, and buried it in the cave of treasures. And after the families and peoples of the children of Seth had buried Adam, they separated themselves from the children of Cain the murderer. And Seth took Enosh, his firstborn, and Canaan and Mahalalel, and their wives and children, and led them up into the glorious mountain where Adam was buried. And Cain and all his descendants remained below on the plain where Cain slew Abel.
All right, that's the separation. So Seth took his peeps, and Cain had to remain down there. Now, this is family, so these people don't look different. These are all melanated people. Now you're starting to understand what's driving today is the same resentment, the same situation. Who are they putting to lead us now? Who got the drop on us now that looks like us now? Tribal war.
The rule of Seth. And Seth became the governor of the children of his people, and he ruled them in purity and holiness. And because of their purity they received the name which is the best of all names, and were called the sons of God.
So you are called the sons of God, not the hijack. You are the one that are coming back to life. You are the one that was crucified. How many of us were crucified? Torn apart, put in frying pans, our babies split apart in front of our eyes, bashed into walls, thrown into the ocean. Cut open, sliced up. They wanted gold. They ate us alive. How many of us were crucified? We are that which they're calling the Mashiach to come. We are the ones together that which will save this entire earth. You are the one that was written about together. We are haya, 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 haya. Together. Don't you get it? We are the sons, the daughters of this energy. And there's no ifs, ands, or bones about it. And together is the only salvation for this place. Together is the only way this place is going to be saved. And the sooner people get down with that, the sooner everybody else can lay down.
They and their wives and their sons. Thus they lived in that mountain, in all purity and holiness, and in the fear of God. And they went up on the skirts of the mountain of paradise, and they became praisers and glorifiers of God in the place of that host of devils who fell from heaven. There they dwelt in peace and happiness. There was nothing about which they needed to feel anxiety. They had nothing to weary or trouble them, and they had nothing to do except to praise and glorify God with the angels. For they heard continually the voices of the angels who were singing praises in paradise, which was situated at no great height above them. In fact, only about 30 spans, according to the measure of the Spirit. So as I was saying there, that it's because they're at the North Pole and they're on Mount Meru, or just below Mount Meru, and just above them, at Mount Meru and above it, is paradise.
So yeah, Mount Meru is the center, is a mountain in the center, or on the center, not in the center, on the center. And yeah, shout out to Flatwater. Definitely subscribe, because he digs in, man, with this flat drop. You know, clearly he puts some hijacks in there as well with the Trinity and all this other stuff he's putting in. But, you know, hey, can't expect him not to be hijacked. But there is some drop, and there are babies in the bathwater. Get them out.
And Yahweh Elohim said unto the serpent,
Hey.
Because thou hast done this, cursed art thou from among all cattle, and from among every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed.
All right, listen up.
It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Upon thy breast and belly he shall keep watch against thy head, and thou shalt keep his heel. No serpent could bruise a person's head. Josephus says that all living creatures at this time were able to speak and had one language. He attributes the fall to this.
All right, they're getting warmer. They're getting warmer. Let's see.
Serpent's envy of the happiness of Adam and Eve. God, he says, deprived the serpent of speech and put poison under his tongue, not knowing that out of some 1,000 varieties of serpents, perhaps 1/2 are not poisonous.
Getting warmer, brother. Oh, is that Adam? You look like Will Smith. This look like Maya. That look like Maya right there. Getting warmer. Look at Will Smith. Adam and Eve. I think Will Smith should start the next Adam and Eve joint. Him and Jada. Let's go.
Certain land snakes use the tongue to bring into the mouth stones, sand, etc., which they swallow to promote digestion, which has been mistaken for eating dust. Professor Owen has shown in his description of the Ophidia, in allusion to the text, "Upon thy belly shalt thou go," that serpents have not been degraded from a higher type, and that no animal has its parts more exquisitely adapted to its necessities. M. Lenormant observes in the Origins of History that the serpent has been assuredly a symbol of life for the Chaldeo-Assyrians.
Whoa. I mean, I know they dropping some drop right now. You know, the serpent with the Assyrians. Definitely. We're going to rewind a little bit, but come on. Come on. Oh, man. Oh, made me choke on my own saliva. I need some water. Give it up. Adam and Eve. With the lion. Starring the lion. Feature. Okay, any questions? Hey, we got another one. Oh, they got the... Yeah. Any questions? They had to do it. They were getting warmer, right?
One of its generic names in the Semitic Assyrian languages, Havav, in Arabic, Hayah.
Any questions? Hey, that's what y'all came for. That was the drop. That was the drop. Thank you for hanging in there, enjoying the show. That was the drop. Let's get it again.
And they're on Mount Meru, or just below Mount Meru, and just above them, at Mount Meru and above it, is paradise.
And Yahweh Elohim from among all cattle, and from among every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Upon thy breast and belly he shall keep watch against thy head, and thou shalt keep his heel. No serpent could bruise a person's head. Josephus says that all living creatures at this time were able to speak and had one language. He attributes the fall to the serpent's envy of the happiness of Adam and Eve. God, he says, deprived the serpent of speech and put poison under his tongue, not knowing that out of some 1,000 varieties of serpents, perhaps 1/2 are not poisonous. Certain land snakes use the tongue to bring into the mouth stones, sand, etc., which they swallow to promote digestion, which has been mistaken for eating dust. Professor Owen has shown in his description of the Ophidia, in allusion to the text, upon thy belly shalt thou go, that serpents have not been degraded from a higher type, and that no animal has its parts more exquisitely adapted to its necessities. M. Lenormant observes in the Origins of History that the serpent has been assuredly a symbol of life for the Chaldeo-Assyrians. One of its generic names in the Semitic Assyrian languages, Havav, in Arabic, Hayah, both from the root Hava, to live.
Hi, Jack 101. Alright, so the Assyrians, or this Arabic version, and all the stuff like that, they're taking something that means life and then injecting whatever the symbolism is, right? The serpent. Oh, that gives life, so we're going to call it Hayah. But what they really just gave you the drop on is that Hayah is life, is breath, is to be, to exist. Oh, he don't exist, the creator don't exist, then who gives you life? Chaos? Let's get it again.
Of speech and put poison under his tongue, not knowing that out of some 1,000 varieties of serpents, perhaps 1/2 are not poisonous.
Listen up.
Certain land snakes use the tongue to bring into the mouth stones, sand, etc., which they swallow to promote digestion, which has been mistaken for eating dust. Professor Owen has shown in his description of the Ophidia, in allusion to the text, upon thy belly shalt thou go, that serpents have not been degraded from a higher type, and that no animal has its parts more exquisitely adapted to its necessities. M. Lenormant observes in the Origins of History that the serpent has been assuredly a symbol of life for the Chaldeo-Assyrians.
So now we just switched it. So now he's saying, oh, well, such and such said that the serpent is a symbol of life for the, I think he said the Chaldeo-Assyrians. So now this is how they view things. Here's their twisted view. He's saying based on the Assyrians, Chaldeo-Assyrians, we view life through the serpent's eyes. Right? Cain went with the serpent, right? He made a covenant with the serpent, right? He took his twin sister and said, I don't care what the order is. I'm in chaos. So some of us that walk among us are literally in the frequency of chaos. And some of us are literally in the frequency of order. And that is tribal war. And it all be looking like this, except now it all looks like everything. But you don't have to use your eyes. You can just use your feeling, right? You can use that ruach, right? That life.
One of its generic names in the Semitic Assyrian language is Havav, in Arabic Hayah.
Hayah.
Both from the root Hava, to live.
To live.
The brazen serpent.
So what do you choose? Oh, look at Adam and Eve now. Oh, look at the hijack city. Ladies and gentlemen, hijack city. The governor and governess of hijack city. Welcome. Welcome to the show. So Hayah, Hayah, life. Breath, life. What do you choose? Do you choose Hayah? No. Because I learned like this, because my elder taught me this, and I taught this, and because No, I don't choose life. I don't choose Hayah. What does Karate Man say when he karate chop you? What does Sensei say? What did Sensei say? He said, Hayah. They knew to call on life in that blow. They gave you the blow of life. They were calling on the Creator in their chi. And now we just look at it as hijack city because it doesn't even look like us, because we forgot we're the root of it all. Getting to the root of it all. Take it away.
Of numbers, which Yahweh himself ordered Moses to
Hayah,
make.
Hayah.
Emblem of Yahweh as a healing deity. This serpent continued to be an object of popular worship until the time of...
See, so now we're talking about the serpent being worshipped, and it started with, they brought up the Chaldeo-Assyrian joint, and then how they viewed life and called, through their injection, the serpent life. So they're calling this serpent Hayah, life, because they're injecting meaning of foundational legend into whatever they want to worship, to do their own thing, into chaos.
Hezekiah, who broke it in pieces because the Israelites burnt incense to it up to that time.
Right.
And he called it Nehushtan, that is, brazen. Roos has observed that there is a pun here, for serpent is called Nahash and brass of Nahasheth. There is no mention of the devil in connection with the serpent until the apocryphal Book of Wisdom, which is of later date than the Septuagint. Even this seems to be figurative. In Ecclesiastes, it is said, the covenant from the beginning is, thou shalt die to death. And it is said, the text, upon thy belly shalt thou go, that serpents have not been degraded from a higher type, and that no animal has its parts more exquisitely adapted to its necessities.
Let's go, we're about to get out of here.
Observes in the Origins of History that the serpent has been assuredly a symbol of life for the Chaldeo-Assyrians. One of its generic names in the Semitic Assyrian language is Havav, in Arabic Hayah, both from the root Hava, to live. The brazen serpent of numbers, which Yahweh himself ordered Moses to make, was an emblem of Yahweh as a healing deity. This serpent continued to be an object of popular worship until the time of Hezekiah, who broke it in pieces because the Israelites burnt incense to it up to that time. And he called it Nehushtan, that is, brazen. Roos has observed that there is a pun here, for serpent is called Nahash and brass of Nahasheth. There is no mention of the devil in connection with the serpent until the apocryphal Book of Wisdom, which is of later date than the Septuagint. Even this seems to be figurative. In Ecclesiastes, it is said, the covenant from the beginning is, thou shalt die the death. And it is said, when the ungodly curseth Satan, he curseth his own soul. Lenormand says, one of the images of Malak Baal, the third person of the Phoenician triad, as the Nebuchadnezzar, the savior serpent, whose image Moses set up in the desert. The rabbis attributed Adam's fall to the envy of the angels, who, having in vain tried to prevent the creation of man, led him in by means of Samael and his angels, who were superior to them, and who employed the serpent as his instrument. If Adam had not sinned, he would have lived forever, according to some. The immediate consequence of Adam's sin was that the Shekinah was withdrawn from earth to the first heaven, and subsequent sins caused it to be removed to the seventh heaven. The Shekinah was a light created expressly in order to represent the divine majesty. The Talmud says that God originally offered the law to all Gentile nations, but they, having refused to submit, Israel took the law on themselves at Mount Sinai, and were literally, as Psalms describes, I said, ye are Elohim, and all of you sons of Elyon, the Most High. If it had not been for the golden calf which put an end to this state of bliss, that generation would have seen the end of Israel. Dr. Donaldson has a dissertation on this verse, in which he shows from Jeremiah and Nahum the real meaning of the word translated bread, the real meaning of the word translated heal. The same word is used for the tree of life that is used in chapters 1, 2, etc., for fruit-bearing and other trees in general. The idea of a tree of life is common to many nations, and everywhere it is the increase of vital energy given by the intoxicating powers of the fruit, which has made semi-barbarous nations believe in a promise of immortality conveyed by it. In Aria, or Area, we have the Soma, the Asclepios Acidula, or Acidula. In Babylonia, the palm, and the Akkadian inscriptions show us that ancient people gave the name Gestin, the tree of life, to the vine. R. Meyer taught that the tree Adam partook of was the vine, for nothing entices man so much as wine, of which it is said, and he drank of the vine and was drunken.
Right.
In the LXX.
So now Adam got drunk off of wine. Yeah, I mean, so, hey. I don't know, I tried to squeeze y'all as much juice as possible, man. But we're just learning, man. We're still just growing. Be careful, not to turn into a solid object. Like Bruce Lee said, hi-ya! And he also said, to be water. When I say acceptance as energy, as vibration, I say be water. When I say something, is right to that spirit, right to the Ruach, I say it's pure water. When they refer to the Maya, they refer to water. You have to be water. I know this stuff makes you want to do all kinds of things, have all kinds of impulses. We are not, a community that's trying to build off of emotion and impulse, but only foundation. And that foundation itself is the only impulse we need to be at the right place, at the right time, in the right frequency. And every day we build, man. Brick by brick, we rebuild our house. Thank you for vibing, man. Until next time. And, just know that, what you see is what you get. When you look in the mirror, what you see is what you get. You should be able to see your energy transform in these days, right? Remember what Adam is. Fire, water, earth, air. So you got wind, the finest of the wind. Remember, those texts said the Creator took the finest of the wind, the finest of the air, the finest of the land, finest of the water, and the finest of the fire, and put it in his hand. And there's Adam shining like a crystal. Then came the crown on his head and the scepter in his hand. And that was the image, that is your image, your energy that can never go. The Most High said he's always going to rise up a righteous branch. I love y'all, Drop Nation.